They say grief drives men to strange places, and I can confirm that's true. I should know. I was there. I lived it. If you'll lend me your ear, I'll tell you about the night I learned just how far the past can reach. But be warned, this isn't the kind of story you'll shake off easily. This is a story about the Oasis Inn. We were miles away from anywhere that had a name, our old station wagon limping through a barren desert under a sky heavy with twilight. The wind kicked up sand that rattled against the car windows, and the gas gauge needle hovered dangerously close to empty. I gripped the steering wheel like a lifeline, glancing at my wife Maria in the passenger seat. She clutched the cross on her necklace, whispering prayers under her breath. Our son Diego sat in the back, wide-eyed and silent. At 12, he was old enough to feel fear, but too young to fully understand it. "We can't keep going," Maria said, breaking the silence. "We need to stop, Eric." "I know," I muttered, though I had no idea where we'd find shelter. Then I saw it. A flickering neon sign rising from the haze like a mirage. "The Oasis Inn," it read, though some of the letters had burned out, leaving only a skeletal glow. It wasn't much, but it was something. "That's it," I said, pulling into the cracked asphalt parking lot. The building looked like it had been forgotten by time. Peeling paint, broken windows, and a sign on the door that dangled precariously from one hinge. I hesitated before stepping inside, but Maria's hand on my arm urged me forward. The lobby was worse than the exterior. The air smelled of mildew and rust, and a single bulb buzzed overhead, casting shadows that seemed too large for the room. Behind the counter stood a man who looked as though he hadn't slept in years. His skin was pale and waxy, his eyes sunken deep into the sockets. "Welcome," he said, his voice low and gravely. "We would like a room," I told him. The man nodded slowly, sliding a tarnished key across the counter. "Room 6, he said. Then, after a pause, he added, "You're just in time." "In time for what?" I asked, but he didn't answer. Room 6 was barely habitable. The bed sagged like a hammock, the wallpaper hung in strips, and the mirror above the sink was cracked into a spiderweb of fractures. "This place is awful," Diego whispered, sitting stiffly on the edge of the bed. "It's just for one night," Maria said, trying to sound reassuring, but her eyes betrayed her unease. I checked the door, making sure the lock worked, then sat by the window to keep watch. Outside, the wind had died down, leaving an eerie silence in its wake. That's when I heard the knock. It was soft at first, barely audible. I stood and approached the door cautiously. "Who is it?" I called out. No answer. The knock came again, louder this time. Maria grabbed Diego and pulled him close. "What is it, Eric? Did you hear something?" I hesitated, but couldn't shake the feeling that I needed to know. I yanked the door open, ready for anything, or so I thought. But the hallway was empty, except for a photograph lying on the floor. I picked it up and felt my breath catch in my throat. It was a picture of us, me, Maria, and Diego. But it wasn't just the three of us. Two little girls stood beside Diego, their faces unmistakable. "What is it?" Maria whispered behind me again, her voice trembling.
"But you promised. You promised you wouldn't forget us.
I felt my knees weaken. They were our daughters, Anna and Sophia, lost to us years ago in a fire. What's wrong, Eric? Maria sobbed, sinking to the floor.
You have to stay. Stay with us.
The room began to twist and stretch, the walls folding in on themselves like paper. The air turned freezing, and the girls' voices grew louder, overlapping into a single haunting wail. "Run!" I shouted, grabbing a bewildered Maria and Diego. They stared at me as if I was crazy. "What's happening?" Diego yelled. I pulled them both into the hallway, which seemed to stretch endlessly before us. The lights overhead flickered, casting long shadows that danced unnaturally. The girls' voices followed, echoing from everywhere and nowhere.
You can't leave us.
We reached the lobby, but it was no longer as we'd left it. The man was gone. I burst through the front door, gasping for air. "Eric, tell me what is happening," Maria demanded, still confused as to what was happening. I looked at her in confusion. The station wagon sat waiting, the engine roaring to life as soon as I turned the key. I didn't question it. I just drove. By dawn, the motel was nowhere to be seen, and the desert seemed less menacing in the light of day, but none of us spoke. Suddenly, Maria's voice broke the silence. "Can you tell me what happened back there?" she whispered. I told her about the photograph and our two daughters. "What photograph are you talking about?" Maria asked with concern. When I went into my jacket pocket to show her the photo, it wasn't there. Had it really happened? Was I losing my mind? I didn't reply. I just kept driving. The horizon stretching out before us. That's the story, unbelievable or not. I will tell you this. If you ever find yourself on a desolate road with no end in sight, think twice before stopping at a place that calls itself an oasis. You might find more than rest waiting for you there. You might find the ghosts of the promises you left behind.